In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in Black and White emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White, where we're coloring conversations on America's canvas. Tonight, we have a very special guest. We've got Dr. Phillip Neely Jr. with us. Dr. Phillip Neely is a 22-year law enforcement officer, having served in progressively responsible leadership and field positions in local law enforcement agencies. His 22-year tenure as a law enforcement professional has afforded him an opportunity to lead, train, and direct all functions of local government. He has experience controlling and managing a budget of more than $27 million. The last 6 years of his law enforcement career entailed numerous roles in administration, managing, and supervising employees. Additionally, Dr. Neely is currently working in education, instructing classes, advising, and mentoring adult learners. Dr. Neely's educational background includes a Bachelor of Science in Criminology, Master of Science, Public Administration, and Criminal Justice. Dr. Neely is a graduate of the Georgia Law Enforcement Command College at Columbus State University and St. Leo University Command Officer Management Program. He has earned Doctorate of Public Policy and Administration with an emphasis in management and criminal justice. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you all to Dr. Phillip Neely.
Good evening. Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon.
Hey, how are you?
Best day of my life, sir.
Hey, well, I'm glad that we got this squared away and we're able to get this taken care of. It's good to have you back on the show. It's been a long time since the top of the year when we did the New Year's special.
Yes, sir. It's a pleasure to be here.
Is there anything you'd like to add to your bio before we jump into the show?
No more than I'm just a man of service. I believe in service. So yes, just sir. A man of service. You know, my motto is striving to serve.
See, and that, I think that's a good thing that we all need, especially in our communities, because we're still trying to build them.
Yes, sir.
Let's start with criminal justice. Can you tell us what led you to pursue a career in criminal justice?
You know, it goes back to my childhood, being raised in a lower socioeconomic community, basically the housing projects, and then moving out into a community where my mom bought a house, but we were still poor. All of my aunts and uncles that raised me had gone to prison or been in jail. My father was in prison. He had been there for a period of time. My mother died when I was 2. I was being raised by a grandmother who did not finish no more than the 5th grade. So she basically had a very limited reading comprehension or writing. I could have been whatever I wanted to be. But what actually led me was just hearing people say, you're going to be just like your father. Oh. And I met this man that really guided me away as I got older, and I'll talk about that later.
Mm-hmm. So how do you perceive the current state of the criminal justice system in the U.S.?
Right now it's broken. Right now it's broken. It's going to take all of us to fix it.
Yes, sir.
I don't believe that a person is truly innocent until they're proven guilty, because if that was the case, you would not lock me up first and make me post bail. I believe that you're guilty until they prove you innocent. And so that's why I think this system is broken. People say, well, you became a law enforcement officer. What did you do to fix it? I did the best I could while I was there. You know, you can only do so much without being ostracized, if you know what I mean. Sometimes you step out of line, they'll put you back in your place. So I tried to do as much as I could. I tried to help our community. I tried to be that mentor. I tried to provide that guidance at the youth detention centers, at the YMCAs, at the boys club, at the community meetings. And me, I'm like I said, I'm a man of service. So I got out into the community as a cop in uniform and try to talk to these kids, especially before making an arrest. If it was a young kid, I wanted to talk to the kid, the parent. If I could not make an arrest on something, I did not. If it was something I had to make an arrest on, like shoplifting because the store wants to prosecute, or some assault because the victim wants to prosecute, I didn't have a choice. But other little things that came up, like skipping school, truancy, fighting, when I say fighting, kids one-on-one fighting, that array as we call it, things like that. I tried to work with the kids to let them know that it's more important to put down your fists and pick up your mind. This is where the power is right here. You can fight anybody and beat anybody mentally, spiritually, emotionally. Your fist, that ain't gonna do anything but get both of us in trouble.
But Dr. Neely, you said something that's really important when you said guilty until proven innocent. Why do you think that so much resonates with people that look like you and I? Why is it like that?
Hey, they want to keep us locked up. It's free labor. I call it institutional slavery. That's all it is, institutional slavery.
Right.
You go there, they lock you up, and you work for free. You work. You go to Reedsville, you make soap, you build the car tags. You go to some of these other prisons, you be out picking in the cotton fields or the watermelon fields or the fruit fields, whatever they need you to do. There are jobs they have to do, working as volunteer firefighters and working inside of the kitchen, cooking and harvesting food and things of that nature. It's sad that we're in this situation, Mr. King. It is. It's really sad. And I say that because look at the number of African Americans that have been locked up and then later freed. And they say, well, we let him go. He's clear now. What happened to them years that you took from my life? Bill Cosby, you locked him up for 5 years. Then you freed the man and said, well, the courts overturned his conviction. What happened to the years you took from Bill and caused all that stress and put Bill in a situation that he went blind? I'm not saying Bill didn't do it.
Right.
I'm just saying we got to get it right. Even now, let's talk realistic about what's going on with Sean Puffy Combs. You didn't put Hugh Hefner in jail. You knew he was running a house of more in turpitude over there. You know it. Hugh Hefner had women all over the world coming in, and they called it the Playboy House.
Yes,
you didn't say he was trafficking, but now Puffy, because he don't want to go along with y'all's scheme, you want to expose his sexuality and the immoral things that he's doing and make it a criminal act. Come on. Yeah. I'm not going to say that Puffy's totally innocent. I'm not.
Right.
What I'm saying is that I don't think the man should be prosecuted for what they're going after. If you go back and look at it, I've been watching the trial. 90% of it, all they talk about is domestic abuse. He's guilty of that. Yes, he beat Cassie. Yes, he controlled Cassie. But where are you going to get the conspiracy to say he was sex trafficking, women, guns, and all the other things that you try to tie into the federal indictment? That's what I'm saying. Look at Art Kelly. Same thing. They know Art Kelly. They've been known for years, Art Kelly, like little young girls. But when they got ready to get him because Kelly wouldn't play the game, they put him in jail. So I say that to say, right now we under attack. They're putting us in jail. What they're trying to do is take all the money back.
Yeah. Now, I can tell you, as you brought those points up, which they are so valid, and I think a lot of people need to understand those. But, the situation with R. Kelly, now, I'm not saying what he did was right with the young girls, but my thing is, whatever happened to getting the parents for selling the children to R. Kelly?
Think about that. That's what I'm talking about. You think Usher mama signed custody of Usher over to Puffy when that boy was 8, 9 years old.
Exactly.
All the way till he was 14. Michael Jackson, when they went after Michael Jackson, no disrespect, those parents knew they was putting that kid in there, but they wanted the money.
Yes.
But when it gets bad, everybody jump on the bandwagon, just like in the social justice movement, everybody jumped on the Me Too movement and started saying that every man touched me, abused me.
Right. And then a thing with Puffy. Now the thing that I find to be so crazy about that is the reason why they're trying to tack on those other charges But they don't want to tack on those charges because of the people that's affiliated. And they're still trying to cover and hide up those people, which everybody knows who those big people are, including those white senators and congressmen, governors, and everybody else that was participating in all of this madness. But they want to try to find a way to stick it on this one person, but that's the problem they got. Remember Heidi Fleiss?
Yeah, and that's what we are right now in society. You know, they want to shield the few and persecute the ones that won't play the game. So if you go back and think about now, I don't agree with what Puffy did. You know, my spirituality say what he was doing was wrong.
Yes.
But does it deserve to put the man in jail and take everything he got? I mean, go look at now what the United States is doing to Harvard, one of the most prestigious universities in the nation. Since they won't play ball, we're going to take your tax exempt status. So if they won't play ball, we're going to fix it where we're going to take away your ability to bring international students in when 70% of all Harvard students are international. So they're finna strip them financially. Win or lose, Mr. King, win or lose, just like going to jail with the bail and arrest, win or lose, you still took something from us and you're going to break us and you can't get that back.
Yes.
I look at the number of people that don't have the finances.
Right.
You know, even as a cop, I watch this and go to jail. They can't make bail. They sit in there 3 or 4 months. Then they go to court and they say, well, you're not guilty, but we're going to give you time served. What do you mean? They can't do anything else because you can't give me the time I already served back.
Right.
You can't give me a good example. Some of the people I know, like this young kid that went to Morehouse, Clark. He was studying to get his PhD. The police locked him up, said he was in a stolen vehicle. This happened back in December. He sat in jail 7 months before he got released. He missed weddings. This kid missed valuable time from his family or his fiance. He missed schooling because he was in jail. And then they find out he could not have been the one to commit the crime because he was in class when this happened at Clark Atlanta University. It don't take a rocket scientist to go and say, wait a minute, let's see what the kid said he went here. Trace his steps backwards. He was in school. Everybody testified to it. There's cameras. But it took you 7 months to find that. He can't get that time back. He was locked up, and he's a PhD student here at one of our HBCUs. That's why I'm glad that you have the show and the platform that you have to highlight these issues. A lot of people don't watch the news, so they don't know these things. Yes. But they may watch the podcast and hear something and then say something.
You know, one thing that I use as a timestamp is it doesn't matter where I go. Everywhere I go, I get my receipt because I always know that this is one of the things, especially when some bad cop has got a wild hair up his butt, going to try to find a way to harass you and say you did this, that, or the other. I always get my receipt and I make sure I keep them in order. This is where I've been.
I'm glad you do that because
if that ever happened to me, this is where I've been.
Yeah, I'm glad you do that because my wife makes the statement all the time. I don't do nothing wrong. I ain't never going to jail. I said, don't say that. So what do you mean? I say, anybody can go to jail. Anybody. If anything, the police can say disorderly conduct. That's called a catch-all phrase. Disorderly. What's disorderly? Well, you was talking loud and cussing in public. They lock you up. Now, they can put you in jail, but it's up to you to prove your innocence. Yes. Even if you get out and you beat the case, what the cop got? Nothing. I was acting on the color of law, so I'm protected. Even though you know there's some bias there.
Yep.
After all the years of policing, I've seen lots of bias in policing. I've seen cops that shouldn't be law enforcement officials. I've seen attorneys working in the DA's office or the solicitor's office that use their bias to prosecute these cases. We got to find a way to eliminate that. We got to find a way to change the narrative. We are the narrative, right? Right now, you are the narrative. Your show is changing the way people think when they listen to this show. When they hear about how we talk about the people in our community, you know, we suffering now because Donald Trump said no more DEI, not only in education facilities, but in government facilities.
Right.
And people are backtracking like nothing. I was glad when Dr. Jamal Bryant jumped on target. when Target said when George Floyd died, they would put $2 million in the community. Soon as Donald Trump said no more DEI, they pulled all their money back, all the DEI back, and started firing people. Are you kidding me?
Yep. Oh man. Yeah, that is something that I think is going to add a whole lot of craziness, because I think these 4 years are going to be probably the worst times we've ever had in all of our communities. And now it's a time that we definitely need to be finding ways to not just work together, but to stay strong and to stay united, because the attack is coming.
Well, see, you got to remember now, though, Mr. King, it's the sad part. We attack each other when we think we can get ahead. Oh, Lord have mercy. We attack each other when we think we can get ahead. Look what they was doing with Jamal Bryant. They was in the White House talking about the man. Talking about he should be hung. He should be in jail. Are you kidding me? Mm-hmm. We should be, like, as you said, uniting, and we're not. We're divided. We're divided now based on the political actions of race, religion, and politics. How do we separate that? How do we get back to what Martin Luther King said? I want everybody to just get along and let my children, he talked about his children, being judged by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. Mm-hmm. We're losing that. We're losing that. People say, we don't need DEI anymore. Take it away. Take away affirmative action and watch what happens. Yes. Watch what's going to happen.
Yep.
Few and few, unless you on that other side where you done crossed the fence and you don't believe in your people no more and you just out there.
See, something. I was going to ask another question. I'm going to ask you this question before we move on. So, what is your opinion on Cop City?
Cop City is controversial. I think Cop City is needed. I argue that right now in the streets of Atlanta, DeKalb County, and Gwinnett County when I'm out. I argue that every day. And they say, why? They building military, they teaching cops to be militarized. I said, no. I'm a police trainer. I've been training cops for the last 10 years. I work in law enforcement. I teach cops, working in the command college, teaching cops to get advanced degrees when they get their master's or their doctorate degrees. And I believe that knowledge is power. If you say the cops are bad, teach them. If you say the cops have bad tactics, train them. If you say the cops need more ethics and integrity, then bring them into locations where they can be taught. Right now, you just got them out running free willy. You don't know what they're learning or what they're doing. Right. You put them in Cop City, put them in there with people that's going to train them to be professionals. We know right now policing is too militarized. So we're trying to change that. I think law enforcement is trying to change that image, to be more community-oriented, to be more, as police agencies now form, to be a representative of the community in which they serve. That's happening, but it's just going to take time. We just can't come in and wipe everybody out. It's going to take time, Mr. King, to train old officers who've been on 20 and 25 years, new tactics. Or if they don't want to learn new tactics, Cop City is designed to get rid of them. When they come to in-service, they're not willing to learn, wash them out. Let them go. So it's a very necessary facility for law enforcement in order to train, to learn, to grow, and to go out and be better in our communities.
So what are some of the most pressing issues facing the criminal justice system today?
I think racism and bias. Racism and bias is one of the most critical issues. You know, right now we got our youth that are running around with no training. We got our youth that are out of control because their kids been raised by kids and parents are scared of their kids. One of the things I said a long time ago, it had nothing with doing me being a police officer. That means doing a father, a husband, a man. I ain't gonna never be scared of my people. Like people say, you don't tote a gun anymore. Why you don't carry a gun when you out here? Man, it's dangerous. I don't need a gun. I ain't carried a gun since I left the police department in 2011. Why? Because I know how to talk to people. I ain't finna go get in somebody's business. The young boy walk up on me, I'm gonna say, sir, can I help you? Anything I can do for you? I'm not gonna get into no argument with him. You shoot me a bird in road rage, I'm just gonna roll my window up, look straight ahead and drive off. So we gotta learn how to diffuse confrontation. You know, not so much engage in confrontation, but diffusing confrontation. Our criminal justice system right now has us designed to go to jail. Think about it. Why would the governor sign an open carry law? Well, everybody can walk around here like the wild, wild west. He did that intentionally because he knew black people were going to arm themselves quickly because we don't fight no more like we used to in the old days, get up, shake each other's hand and say, I'm sorry. Now we pull guns and shoot each other. Or the other side are carrying guns, and when they say they're in fear because of how we look, they can shoot and say, oh, stand my ground. The system is broken. The system is broken, and what I need to change is that we need to change this open carry law, go back to where it used to be. You want to carry a gun, you had to go get a permit. Carry that permit with your gun to show that you had not committed any criminal acts, you're a person of high standards and integrity, etc. Now you got kids walking around here with guns. We can't stop them and check them because it's a violation of their privacy rights just to stop and say, hey, you got a gun, how old are you? Atlanta police have been sued several times having those type incidents where the kid was 22, 23. They had a gun, no felony, so they had the right to possess the weapon, but they looked younger. So they're going to use that profile. They're going to use that as harassing them. And the other part, the criminal justice system is filled and fueled because we over-police lower socioeconomic communities. You don't see all these police up in Buckhead, but you can ride now through Mechanicsville, downtown Buckhead, some of the Hunterville, Adamville, and some of the other villes here in Atlanta, DeKalb County area. You see police on every block. Now, you might say, well, that's just providing that service or protection. Well, if the police there, people gonna do things that you can consider either right or wrong. You know, that's why I always talk about these SROs in the school resource officer. You know, back in the day, if student got to fighting, you didn't call the resource officer. You took them to the principal. The principal had administrative sanction for the children. They didn't suspend them and send them home. They wanted them in school. They put them in school detention, sent them downstairs with the ROTC, make them work during school time. Now we send them home, we put them in the street. What do you think they're going to do in the street? Parents at work or whatever. You know, so we got to stop using law enforcement to institutionalize our children. I truly believe in that saying, from schools to prison, that pipeline from schools to prison. And I think it starts a lot of time with having school resource officers that are not trained, that don't have that initial compassion, right? So in other words, what I'm saying is to you, when it comes to those type positions, the most qualified candidate is not always the best candidate. And the best candidate is not always the most qualified candidate. I believe that candidate has to be a fit for that position. Anybody, to me, just can't be a school resource officer or school police officer. Because I know now we got Atlanta got their own police. They call them school police. You got to have people when you hire these people that believe in the people, that believe in the children. Now, we also got to have that firmness to say, if they break the law, I know how to deal with them without hurting a child. Think about the other day, they had a assistant director of a juvenile facility here in Georgia beat a girl handcuffed. What can that girl have done to you so bad that she got handcuffs on and you hit her, you beating her? She had to go to the hospital. What could she have done? Handcuff a female. And don't get me wrong. I know women can hurt you. They are strong. They are bad. But I'm just saying, in order to fix our system, we as people have to get involved. We got to vote. We got to make our voices heard. And we got to stand strong and firm on what we believe in. And so, people that oppose Cop City, I'm okay with it because they believe they standing strong on what they believe in. Everybody don't like the police. My mama that raised me, my grandmother hated the police. When she found out I was joining the police department, she went crazy because all of her kids had been to jail. You know, I was the only one that had gone to college, graduated, and joined the police department. And it just changed that narrative because now I had to act differently, I had to do things differently. Some people I could not associate with. So that's my drift on how to fix it, sir. I hope I addressed your question. I know I rambled on. I apologize.
Oh, no, you did, because actually, as you came on the back end of that, I was just going to tell you that was the thing that a lot of people were saying was the bad thing about how they felt about Cop City, because they felt like that the over-policing, of the underserved communities were going to get worse and was going to be more militarized.
And I think Chief Sherribon now, he's believing strongly in DEI. He believes strongly in community, and he's a career law enforcement officer. I think he would be able to take the Atlanta Police Department and change that narrative, right? Get people in place where they need to be, not over policing the city of Atlanta when it comes to Cop City. Cop City is here in DeKalb County where I live. So you look at DeKalb County, DeKalb Police Department has modernized themselves to make sure that they're being more people friendly, community involved, and being engaged instead of being aggressive and proactive, right? Now we got to work traffic because we know there's some bad apples out here.
Yes,
but we got to make sure we have that balance. That's where I think police officers get lost a lot of time. They lose that balance. You know, it ain't all about writing a bunch of tickets, right? Trying to meet a quota. It ain't all about making a bunch of arrests, trying to meet a quota. It's about being what you've been sworn to be. Not on that door it says serve and protect, but we are peace officers. Our job first and foremost is to keep the peace.
Right.
And keep the peace don't mean everybody has to go to jail. Doesn't mean everybody deserves a ticket. So Cop City is gonna be that training. I think they put top flight trainers over there, from what I was told, and from what I've been heard from the mayor, Andre Dickens. They're putting people over there that's making a difference because they want to make a change, right? This is a reflection of them. If it goes bad, Mayor Dickens take the heat. The Atlanta City Council take the heat. The DeKalb County Commission takes the heat. Nobody wants to go back. They want it to succeed so they can say we putting out quality police officers. We acting accordingly on our policy. Had an officer this weekend. He did everything right. He went out drinking. He's a manager. So he said, as a supervisor, not as a supervisor, he's a manager. He's a lieutenant. He got an Uber home. But on the way home, he started thinking, you know, with the wrong head here. And it led him to do things he shouldn't do, touching the girls. He said, stop touching the girls. Stop. I'm an Atlanta police officer. You know, he's going to lose his career behind something that made no sense. So I think Cop City is deserved. He's been on the force a long time. The question I ask all police officers when I go teach at the academy, tell me the last time you was taught ethics training. You know what they say? Well, we hadn't taught ethics since I left the police academy. And it was only an hour block. Tell me why. And most managers, chiefs, captains, majors, those high-ranking officials say, well, that's ethics training. That's their morals, their values. They should know that stuff. We shouldn't have to teach that. But you expect them to adhere to it. So you should teach it. That's what Cop City gonna bring. If you inspect what you expect, you get quality. What you put out, so you got inputs, outputs, and outcomes. What you put in is what you expect to get out is quality, and the overall outcome should be a successful community where police are only needed when times of trouble comes into place. Otherwise, they're there just to say hello, hi, and I'm just riding through making sure your property fine.
Yes, exactly. Can you discuss a significant case or event that has influenced your perspective on justice?
Well, I like the fact this George Floyd case was really instrumental to me because I thought that the government, the law enforcement officers got it right. George Floyd knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing was wrong. It was a racist act to stand on George Floyd's neck for 9 minutes or 9 seconds, whatever it was. It was a racist act for him to do what he did. They had already had words prior. They had been having words, and the justice system got it right. I think they got it right. He went to trial. I don't think he was convicted by public opinion. I think he was convicted by a jury of his peers that heard the law and applied the law. That's why he's still in jail now. And I believe that if it were not done right, or if it was done biased, or done in a way that wasn't in what we will call connection with the law, bridging that gap, I believe that the current president would have got him out, would have pardoned him, or gave him a pardon, but he didn't.
Also, you haven't heard that's what's in the works.
Yeah, he's talked about it, but I don't believe he's going to do it.
Well, I hope you don't, because Keith Ellis was saying that he's in jail where he's supposed to be, and they're preparing to fight against that.
Yeah, and I've heard he was talking about getting him a pardon, but I don't think he will, because I think if he does, they're going to tap that community. You know, they know that this was an absolute slam dunk, right? It wasn't circumstantial evidence. We all witnessed what he did to George Floyd. Yes. We all saw that what he did was wrong. The man was handcuffed in the back of a car. Leave him in there and take off and get to the station or the hospital. You pulled him out and then stood on his neck. It's not needed. Well, that case it meant a lot to me because I seen the justice system actually work. I seen the federal government step in. Joe Biden put in dissent decrees up on the police department. What I don't like now is our current president is talking about removing those dissent decrees. Dissent decrees is for the federal government to monitor these police departments to make sure they're not in violation of Title VII, right?
Right.
They're not abusing the Civil Rights Act, because we got a lot of police departments that have been in violation like that, right? Including Ferguson. It all started with Ferguson, or out in LA when Rodney King. So it ain't stopped. Rodney King was in what, 90 and 91? Here we are in 2025, and we still having dissent decrees put on law enforcement departments because they cannot control their actions. They abuse their force. They think they have absolute power. They don't have absolute power. Nobody has that power. And I think that it's going to be shown at some point when Congress steps up and stop the current president, or SCOTUS continue to issue notices that these things cannot be denied. SCOTUS is starting to stop them now, because we don't want to see the president going further, setting as precedent, and the next president come in and think they can be a king or dictator also. These are serious issues, and we got to change them, because if not, I feel bad, because our law enforcement agencies or officers are never going anywhere. If you go back biblically, all the way up to where we are now, I don't care how good law enforcement is or how bad they were, we're going to always have law enforcement officials. So it's up to us, Cop City, to train them right, to get them right, so they can go out here and do right by us, the taxpayer, the citizens of these communities.
You know, you was talking about those consent decrees. I want you to know that I actually went through it and I read all of those that was put out during the Biden administration. And the one that stuck out the most to me, and this is the honest to God truth, and I hope that these people don't feel bad, but New Orleans, Louisiana, the state of Louisiana had like 3 parishes that were under consent decrees for civil rights violations that was like completely horrific. And they continue to do this, but hate it when the spotlight is shined on them. And this current president is having his DOJ to go back, and they're trying to remove a lot of those. But you know, that's why when I grew up, I used to go down to New Orleans a lot, but I could always tell something was different. I stopped going down there. I'm just going to be honest with you. I stopped going down there because that kind of criminality that they got going on down there, they put you in places, or they can take you into places where you'll never be found.
Yeah. Think about, policing in the Deep South. That's the problem we're running into. Policing in the Deep South is something terribly different than the Midwest or the North.
Yes.
It's different down here. And if you get caught out here in one of these bad situations, look at the young lady they pulled over for smoking a cigarette, and she ended up going to jail, and they tell me she hung herself. Tell me when an African-American lady will hang themselves just for a minor violation. A minor violation. Yes. No way. No way. No way. And no video evidence inside of a correctional facility. No way. But I'm good.
How do you think systemic racism plays a role in the criminal justice practices?
Well, we got to get better legal advice. We got to get better attorneys. We got to get better public defenders. You think about now, when you look at some of the major cases when these people are getting off, they got money. They got money to go buy the best attorneys. And whether right or wrong, those good attorneys can find the faults and win the case. Where when you start thinking about lower socioeconomic communities, or looking at African Americans, a lot of them don't have the money to defend themselves. So what happens? They get trapped. This happened one time. Now I get caught again. I'm trapped. So now I got to take a plea. Because you tell me if I go to trial and I lose, I'm going to get 30 years. While I take this plea, I can get 2 years and be home and do the rest 5 months on probation. These situations, then you got to get, to be honest, the root cause. You got to get to the root cause. The root cause are the judges. Look at some of the judges. Our current president want to brag on the number of judges he put in place, especially the federal judges, where they can be biased. They can use that bias. Why? Because they're on bench for life. They don't have to run for office once they get in there. They're appointed for life.
Right.
Even these circuit court judges or these municipal court judges, man, come in for a traffic ticket for driving on suspended license in municipal court, end up in the county jail for a year. Why? Because you put me on probation in there because I couldn't pay the $500 ticket, so I'm a license suspended. I violate the probation because I got a choice to make. Do I eat, feed my family, or pay the mortgage, or pay my $50 or $100 probation fee? If I don't pay that fee and I'll try to make it up next month, you revoke my probation. I go back before the judge. Now you give me 6 months to a year. Now my family's suffering. I see it happen all the time, especially in these small cities. These small cities, they operate on traffic revenue. So they're going to push these traffic tickets. Think about the state of Georgia. We got the super speeder law. You get caught running over 100 miles an hour, you know, your ticket can be almost $1,000.
Yeah.
Well, shouldn't it be enough that if I get caught running 100 miles an hour, that's reckless driving, you put me in jail? Let me post bond and just deal with that. Why I got to have this big citation on top of going to jail and get my car to impound? See, the system criminalizing us, but we got to be better than the system. We got to outthink the system. Now, I give Martin Luther King Jr. a lot of credit, and I admire Martin Luther King Jr. I study his work. I don't know if I would have been able to turn the other cheek, because you hit me, I'm going to hit you back. But now that I got older, I started to think, is that what they wanted us to do? Is that why Martin Luther King believed in nonviolence? Because you know if he hit them back, they would beat him to death and then lock him up? We got to start thinking differently, Mr. King. You don't have to be an attorney to think like one. All you got to do is do your research. Do your research. Like you said, I read those consent decrees. How many people read them? They say, oh, I don't read that mess. I'm not an attorney.
Right.
I talk to an attorney every morning. That's a strong Republican. He works, but he's a colleague. We agree, we disagree, but we don't argue.
Right.
But I like to hear his viewpoint. I want to see where he's coming from. I want to make sure I'm not being biased and I'm just wrapped up on one side and not the other.
Right.
So it makes me wholesome. So we got to start thinking differently so we can change this system, right? Start thinking like attorneys. Start acting like attorneys. My daddy was a jailhouse attorney. He came home right before he died. He had gone to law school in prison. He went to court and represented a couple of people and could have won. And finally the judge said, wait a minute. Are you an attorney? He said, no. You can't represent nobody. You can't come in and present yourself as an attorney. You're not a legal attorney. Well, with the law school, just can't sit before the bar because I'm a convict. So I said that to say, he told me, he said, son, you think like a cop. That's your problem. Quit thinking like a cop. Think like a man that's hungry for knowledge. You'll find the answers. As a detective, you'll find the clues that solve those crimes. As a educator, you'll find the knowledge to share with the people that need it. As a mentor, you'll find the kid that want to hear what you have to say. As an advisor, you'll find the student trying to come through and put them in the classes they need and guide them in the right direction. As an American, as a black man in America, you'll find a way to keep yourself out of jail, not follow my path, but to make your own. Sometimes God gave you a shovel, dig your own path and start to walk down it.
Wow. What reforms do you believe are essential to improving the criminal justice system?
Well, we need better police reform. I can tell you that. They've tried to pass that bill several times, and police reform is really needed. We need to change our bail system. I don't think that we need no bail like they did during the social justice movement in New York. That doesn't work. We need a bail system, but we need to make sure that we change that system and change the Constitution to reflect what police power is and how it should be used, right? So we don't believe that. Police reform is very critical right now, making sure that all police are trained in a way that's consistent with the policy and what America wants. Also, to take away make sure that these consent decrees are being followed. You know, we can go so far to say even in the Fulton County Jail, Pat Labatt, the sheriff in Fulton County Jail, is up under consent decree federally, right? Is he following it? He's trying, but he said the jail falling apart. He's the sheriff, but he's fighting with the county commissioner. So I ain't giving you no more money in that jail. We're giving you all this money. But what happened? People are escaping. They're killing each other. They're fighting. Deputies are being harmed inside of the jail. So the reform we need policies that guide local law enforcement. to guide our local law enforcement. I say local law enforcement, not police, because I want to make sure the sheriffs are doing the right thing when they're out serving these criminal and civil papers, not abusing people right and forcing their way into their house. I want to make sure the marshals, when they're evicting people, you're not just throwing people property on the street when people are sitting there crying and say, hey, don't throw my stuff out there. At least put it on the yard. My people on the way. And you say, well, you've been evicted. This is garbage now. We want to make sure the marshals are doing their job. Then we want to make sure police departments are not abusing their power, not just beating up on people, writing tickets so they can improve their own local budgets, putting people in jail because they want to show a quota or show that I'm solving crimes by locking people up and cleaning up our communities by arrest. That's not helping us. You can't arrest your way out of this criminality. You can't arrest your way out of criminality. We want to make sure our DNR rangers are not being biased when they see a black man coming through the woods with a rifle. Treat them different than they would a white man. Treat everybody the same. You DNR. You're supposed to be able to deal with that. We want to make sure that our rangers are doing the same thing when they're out there enforcing the laws. Just make sure all local law enforcement is the same. And I say that because right now, if you look at the FBI, Cash Patel has no idea how to police. He has no idea how to run a local law enforcement. But since he's an attorney, they put him over the agency. He's over there now doing things that are not consistent with our policy. We go back and look at Comey. Why would Comey write 8647, put it on the sand and put it on his book? Everybody knows what that means. Everybody knows that Comey was the ex-FBI agent. Or we so caught up in policies and politics that we can't get out of our own way. Politics is killing them. Even Republicans fighting against each other. 86 means take them out, kill them. Yep. 47 is the year is his presidential term. Comey know what he was doing. Cash Patel know what he's doing now when he go back since Cuomo is running for governor of New York. He wanted to defend Eric Adams, so he gonna go knock Cuomo out by trying to find dirt or something Cuomo said or did 5 years ago. Come on. It's a fight, and our criminal justice system is being used politically. Not for the way it was intended, but it's been used. Even Hoover, as racist as Hoover was, I can tell you that Hoover he would turn over his grave right now to know how the FBI is being used as a political politics and a political pundit.
Yeah, he's totally weaponizing it now. And and you know always when you know that a person is not all the way not ethical is when they go and they'll throw what they're doing on the next person.
Exactly.
Okay. Like, do you remember doing a campaign? Always talking about this. Biden was weaponizing the DOJ against Republicans and his political enemies, and all this other kind of crap. He gets into office and he's weaponizing the FBI, and he's messing with his political enemies.
Think about it. January the 6th, those people were convicted. Yep. Juror their peers, that they took pleas. Yep. Trump freed every last one of them, even the ones that assaulted law enforcement officers. It's a sad day in America. It's a sad day in America, but it's up to us to make change. And I tell you one thing, we ain't giving up. No. And we're going to stay in the fight.
Almost
we ain't giving up, but we're going to stay in the fight. And our fight is not physical. Our fight is what you're doing right here, Mr. King. Our fight is to speak our word to our people so they can be knowledgeable. Our fight is to vote. Our fight is to go to City Hall, go to our city council members, council meetings, commission meetings, and let our voices be heard. That's what our fight is. Get in political office if we can. I'm so sick of black folks that make it and don't give back and don't get involved. That's the problem we got right now. We got so many that got PhDs. They got billionaires, but they don't get involved. So, well, it ain't my fight. It is your fight. It's all of our fight.
You know something, Dr. Neely, you know what? That's a whole nother show in itself, because those are the gatekeepers.
I'm sorry to go there, but I always think about it.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Those are the gatekeepers. And those are the people that are actually putting that bad stamp on our communities, because they figure that they can march along with those that they think have something for them, which has nothing.
Right.
Has nothing.
Right.
And so use you to do the dirty work, kick you to the curb. You've already destroyed our communities. Now what the hell you got?
Jesus. I'll tell you. Woo! I love it.
How do you approach the balance between law enforcement and community rights?
Well, it's a thin line there, and this is when I say that thin line because it's interesting you would ask that question because my wife always say I'm pro police. Oh, since you was a cop, those cops are wrong. You believe in everything the police say. I said no. I used to feel that way. Now, as an educator, I have to look at the facts. I have to look at what the law says, look at what happened in the community, and how we come up with a measurable way to address those issues that leaves no harm to either side. And that's a thin line. I would say training. I would say education. I would say programs like what you are running right now. Bring in people that have the capacity to talk about these issues and provide meaningful facts on how to deal with these issues, how these issues should be addressed, and to educate our people on the things that are going on with local law enforcement so we don't get ourselves in situations. And if we are, how to handle these situations. Right. You know, I think somebody put out a thing called Flying While Black. Another one went called Driving While Black. These was serious issues. Yes. I've seen people get stopped for no reason. Yeah. Seen people get pulled out of the airports for no reason. That's the worst place to be is in the airport. Cops all over the airport. They don't wear uniforms. Right. They got badges on and guns. They look like me and you until they want to profile you and pull you out. I got profiled in Tampa coming through the airport. Put out, I was strip search until they says, whoa, wait a minute. They saw a badge and then they saw my school out there and said, well, are you a cop? I said, no, I was a cop. You got a badge? I said, hey, I'm a retired cop. I worked at the agency for years and now I'm an educator. I teach criminal justice. Oh, you know, then they want to play it off, suit you up and apologize and try to give you all these different situations. I said, dude, ain't nothing you can say to me. I'm not going to file a complaint. I got profile. I'm okay with it. I don't like it, but I'm okay. I'm going to move on because there's nothing I can do at that point but make a mess of the situation. So what I would tell people, you know, you start looking at the community and looking at law enforcement and that balance we got to have. Don't over police our communities, but police our communities. Don't just say we're going to leave y'all alone, let you gang bang and shoot up and kill each other. Don't do that. Don't over police our communities. Police our communities. And making sure that the people that's in our community is a representative. They don't always have to be a black officer, right? Don't always have to be a white officer, white community. But you want to have that officer to have that mindset. You want to have that officer that has the critical thinking, the analytical skills. When they come into our communities, they can deal with us. They culturally aware. It's not sending a guy inside of a Muslim community that hate Muslims. You know, a lot of people are culturally biased that way when it comes to ethnicity. We got to make sure that we got the right people in our communities. That's how we got to handle that as far as law enforcement. Now, on the other side, we got to continue to educate our public because a lot of people don't trust the police. They don't like the police, and there's nothing you can tell them to go make the police right. Nothing. Right. I've seen those people, including my grandmother. She didn't like the police. So, and nothing you can tell her. She couldn't, 5th grade education. All she know, the police took all of her kids away from her. And these are issues that have been just systemically rooted in her. So when people say, I don't believe in this word of systemic racism, are you kidding me? I've seen white cops that are systemically racist. Now, they don't display it in the roll call or in shift. They're going to be, as they say in the old day, we're going to bag the blue. You know, I'm with you. Then when we get off, you ain't going to have no bill with them and they don't want nothing to do with you. So it is that, but I would say education and training are the main key sets, and then the other is going to be people like you doing what you're doing, having shows like this and putting it out there because 90% of America will not read. Reading is fundamental, but they will not read, but they'll listen to what's being told to them.
Ain't that something?
Yes,
ain't that something?
Yes. So we got to have people like you, high standards, a person of integrity, ethics, good morals that people in the community trust, because they're going to come listen to you because they respect you. But if you put it somewhere for them to read or put it in a book, I ain't got time to read that. I don't want that, but they'll listen to what's being said. And that's an issue.
It is, but that's so true. In your opinion, what is the most misunderstood aspect of criminal justice?
I say law enforcement, the officers themselves. Everybody think law enforcement is just bad. You know, nobody trusts law enforcement. That's been going on for a long time. It hadn't just started. It's been going on for a long time. This was going on way before the social justice movement, where people don't trust law enforcement because I like to say they don't know what we do, or how we do what we do. Good example. Well, he could have shot him in the leg. He didn't have to shoot him and kill him. Well, we don't shoot to kill. We shoot to stop. But we're not trained to shoot arms, legs. You're trained to shoot center mass. Because if I got to use deadly force, I want to put you down. Not kill you, but I want to put you down. If you get hit anywhere center mass, you're coming down. Listen, the average cop can't hit the biggest part of the body, which is center mass. So you want them to shoot at a leg or arm, they're going to kill other people. That's one. Two, they said, well, he didn't have to tase that guy. He could have did this or that. Well, I gave you 3 commands. If I grab you, you're going to say, I'm beating up on the old lady. Then I tase you, he didn't have to shoot her with electric shock, and he died. The preacher that died. The preacher, I don't agree with the term comply or die. So that's not what I'm saying for the listeners. But I know that's the thing out there, comply or die. The preacher could have complied. This would have went a little bit differently. So I would say when law enforcement is there, and I tell my own family this, comply with law enforcement. You can always fight this in court. If he say he's going to lock you up, go on to jail. I'm coming to get you. If he want to do this, don't let him hit you. Don't let him talk bad to you. Like I told a cop one day, he stopped me. I said, sir, you got 2 choices. You can take me to jail or write me a ticket, but I'm not finna sit here and be lectured to. Who you think you are? I said, I am Phillip Neely Jr. And I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to sit on the side of the road and let you lecture to me like a kid. Either you're going to write me a ticket or you're going to lock me up. Either way, I'm okay. So we have to make sure that we don't try to get roadside justice. And I think a lot of times that's where these problems start. We try to get roadside justice. And police officers are human. So what they do, they get in their feelings. Once they're in their feelings, they automatically abuse the power. First thing they come out, you say another word, I'm going to lock you up. Now, once the threat is out there, they can't pull it back. So they say another word, now I can lock you up. So here we go. What's the charge? Obstruction. What did I obstruct? Or disorderly conduct. Why was I disorderly? You did this. They can just write the power of the pen. Even with the video cameras. You notice how those cameras conveniently come on and go off? They're supposed to be on. But sometimes they'll automatically go off. Look at one in Cleveland when they shot the man in his garage. Right before they shot him, all the cameras went off. There's 5 cops out there. None of the cameras on. They know what they're doing. Think about the Georgia State Patrol. Ask me why all local law enforcement are now wearing body cameras except Guard Special Police. Georgia State Patrol, Guard Special Police are the only law enforcement officers in this area that don't wear body cameras. Why? You can't tell me the state of Georgia don't have the money to supply them. They just gave us tax refunds to everybody in the state of Georgia. Atlanta police got them. All the small municipalities got them. Georgia State Patrol does not wear a body camera. Now, they got cameras in the cars. So when they're in pursuit, you can see this pursuit. So most people say, well, I saw a pursuit. Yeah, let's call her in-dash car camera. I'm talking about the body camera. When they shot this guy over here in Cop City, it was a good shooting. Most America don't like it because they shot and killed the guy, but it was a good shooting based on my knowledge of law enforcement, my investigative experience. But that cop should have had a body camera. That way you can show the family, your son fired at me first. I only fired back in self-defense. Now, what saved him is a couple of the Atlanta Police Department were there and their body cameras were on and operating. They was able to get the footage. But that camera should have been on Guard Special Police, the Georgia State Patrol. These are things that we have to start thinking outside the box, you know. And I tell people a lot of times, thinking outside the box is ruining us. I'm almost saying, now get in the box. The box is there. Get in there and stir it up and see what's going to come out. I'm going to make change.
Look, I don't think they want you to do that because what's inside that box ain't going to be nice.
There you go. And that's what they got to learn. Either you're going to adhere to the rules and policy or you're going to deal with the consequences. Whether you're law enforcement or doesn't matter. We're not saying assault law enforcement. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying the law enforcement officers have to also be respectful of the people in which they're dealing with because you don't know who you're talking to. You don't know who you're dealing with. I can look like a bum and be a senator. I can look like a bum and be an attorney that specializes in high crimes. And you don't know that. That's why right now, Atlanta and the most police agencies are suffering because we're spending so much money on lawsuits that we don't have the money to function and buy the things we should have. Look at the money they took to build Cop City because of all of the destruction. That building should have been built for a whole lot cheaper. But we spending all this money on lawsuits because officers are not properly trained. Get them over there and train them. Get them over there and train them. What I would ask the protesters to do is start holding the police accountable. And how you hold them accountable? Each class that graduates, show me what they have learned here and how they're applying that in their first year out in the field. Show me how the police academy has changed the ethical standards of law enforcement. We just had Atlanta police locked up for groping a girl in the back of a car. That's a problem. That's what Cop City gonna use. Show me how that you have a driving track now, how emergency vehicle operation course have helped you officer to stop running what we call a code, lights and sirens, and driving that car without due regard, killing my mama coming home from church, or killing my daughter that's coming from the grocery store because they should not have been chasing, or they overdrove the vehicle. They know they was overdriving the vehicle when you're running 100 miles an hour through a neighborhood that's only a 45-mile-an-hour street.
What role does education play in shaping the future criminal justice professionals?
Man, it plays a big role. I'm glad you brought that up. Hallelujah. Plays a big role. Knowledge is power. You know, most people say, well, most cops doesn't have that knowledge because it only takes a high school diploma or GED to become a law enforcement official. That's true. I've been pushing now for the state of Georgia to propose that all law enforcement officers have at least an associate's degree before getting hired. You can't be a teacher without a 4-year degree.
That's
you can't
true.
be a doctor without a 4-year degree. You can't be a lawyer without a 4-year degree. So why is those professions badged with degrees and local law enforcement? It's an option. It should not be an option. You can't be an FBI without a 4-year degree. Are they better than us?
No, you're right about that.
Education plays a big role. It changes your mindset. It makes officers think differently. It gives them a different perspective using critical thinking skills, using analytical thinking skills. It makes them have that, what I'll call that moment, where they think before they act. We understand that everything is reactionary, but they think, why should I do this? Or should I do this? What are the consequences behind this? If I pull this trigger, that's $1 million bullet. So the organization gonna get sued. Or now, when I was policing, they didn't put cops in jail unless they did real violent acts. Now they put cops in jail. The cop that got arrested this weekend for groping that girl, he wouldn't have went to jail back in the day. They would have brought him to the precinct, took his badge, gun, put him on administrative leave. He probably got suspended for 20, 30 days. Now they take you to jail. You got to think about your actions. And education makes a cop think differently. It provides them with that roadmap for success. You know, getting that bachelor's degree, then going on getting that master's degree. You know, once you get your master's, you consider a subject matter expert. You begin to think differently. You act differently. Now, with the degree, you know, we're not trying to get in trouble because you got something to lose.
Yes, sir.
Right? They got something to lose. You ruin everything behind it. So education is going to be the key going forward in law enforcement. One of the things I've been keeping data on, the number of officers that get arrested or commit unethical acts compared to those that have degrees and don't have degrees. So I've been tracking that, trying to track it nationally every time I see a cop get arrested, you know, because what I'll try to find out, if I can get enough data to prove to the Georgia Assembly, look at the data. Every officer that gotten in trouble or gone to jail for these type abuse of power, they wasn't educated. They didn't have a college degree. But the ones that did have college degrees, they think differently. They realize they got something to lose. They're not willing to lose it.
How can technology be leveraged to improve the criminal justice system?
Well, I think technology is great and has always have, and it is leveraging the criminal justice system with the use of body cameras. You think back in the day, we didn't have body cameras, so it was the power of the pen. Whatever the officer said, whatever the officer wrote, that's what happened. Now you go to court. The district attorney don't ask you for your police report. You know what they say? I want to give me the body camera. And they compare what you said to the body camera and how